There is
I don't know
something
if I have the
nobody
strength
tells
for
you
this.
about being a caregiver. You get so good at bracing for bad news
Just rest, Diep.
that when good news finally arrives, you do not know what to do with it. Diep found that out on a Tuesday afternoon. James walked through the door from the doctor, set his keys down, and smiled at her the way he used to. 14 months. That is how long it had been
I know
since
it's a
she
lot
had
to
seen that
process.
smile.
No.
She sat down,
I feel so much better
right where she was
now.
standing, and for the first time in a very long time,
It's okay.
she let herself feel something other than
Look at how
strong.
well it's growing.
If you have ever been that person,
Yes, it's beautiful.
the one holding everything together, the one keeping their face very calm while everything around them is uncertain, this one is for you. Now, James is not a man who makes a fuss. Doctor's appointments, difficult news, hard mornings. He handles all of it the same way, quietly, steadily. He goes, he listens.
I'm back.
He comes home and
Welcome
tells
home, James.
Diep exactly what was said. No drama, no delay. That is just who he is. So when he came through that door and stood in the living room, saying nothing at all, Diep knew immediately. Something
You've seen
was
this before?
different.
I have.
James, give me a second. She waited. He sat down in
James,
his chair,
Is that
leaned
truly
forward
him?
with his elbows on his knees,
Yes, it's him.
looked at the floor for a moment, like he was making sure he had the words right before he said them out loud.
Take your time. It's all right.
I can't feel my legs. It's been too long.
I never thought I would feel this way. It's like a weight I can't lift.
I have seen the impossible. And I intend to prove it.
Then he looked up. Dr. Reeves wants to run the tests again,
I
he
didn't
said.
I
Why?
didn't think
What
I'd
happened?
Ever see you again.
I'm afraid the medical news is serious, but there's a path forward.
What do we need to do?
The results from last month, they were not what he expected.
Wow.
Just breathe.
James
We'll figure it out.
paused.
What exactly does
Different
that
in a good way. The progression is
Doctors
slower
found him
than
out.
his original assessment.
He's going to be okay.
Significantly slower. Diep stood very still.
I'm here for
Now, I want you to sit with that for a
Thank you.
moment. Significantly
Take your
slower. After 14 months of hard days and careful faces and 2-minute cries in the kitchen,
It's gonna be
2
all right,
words,
I
and
understand
everything
it's a lot to take in.
shifts. James
Just
kept going.
Give me a moment.
He
to
does not
explain.
want to get ahead of himself.
I'm
He was
listening.
very careful about that.
The doctor gave us.
He
some
does not
warnings.
want to give us
We shouldn't
false
celebrate
hope.
just yet.
What did
A
he say?
pause.
It's too soon to be sure.
But he wants to look
We have
again,
To be careful.
more
I have the
carefully,
results too deep.
because something
This
is
isn't
not
just an
adding up
illness.
the way he thought it
Something
would.
unprecedented.
What does that mean exactly?
What is it?
Diep asked.
I have to know the truth. Please tell me exactly.
Just calm down. I'll explain.
It means
The
more
wait will be
tests.
long.
It means
Fraught with
waiting.
difficulty,
He looked at
But
her
we stand
steadily
together.
across the room.
and we will endure.
Hey, but it also means
doctor
there
said
is
he's gonna
something
be
to wait
okay.
for.
He's strong.
And Dr. Reeves would not be
promise
running more
everything will be
tests
all
if
right.
he did not think there was a
I don't
reason
see how we
to.
can possibly make this work.
Diep sat down,
Just hold on to Diep. There's always hope.
No,
Is that true?
not gracefully.
no,
She just
no,
sat
No.
down
no.
right on the
I don't
nearest
believe
chair
you.
because her legs had made the decision before her mind did. Ma, you're being cautiously
Yes, I
optimistic, she said carefully.
I feel the same.
Extremely
way.
cautiously optimistic.
It's truly.
Diep let out a long breath.
At last, it's over. I can finally breathe.
It came out
Oh,
shaky at
God.
the edges. Okay,
Thank you.
she said.
Thank you.
Okay? Okay. Cautiously.
Thank you.
Optimistic.
I have to do
I
this.
can do that.
There is no
He
other
reached
way. I've
across
made my
and took her
decision.
hand.
Yes.
It's gonna be okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Ah,
I
there
feel
you
like
are,
a weight has been
he
lifted.
said softly. I was wondering when you were going
I'm
to
here for you,
breathe.
Diep.
Now,
I never
I want to
imagined
ask you
finding
something.
peace like this.
Have you ever held yourself
Surrounded by
together
our
for so
community
long,
and the beauty of
been
this
so
place.
disciplined about being strong,
It's finally over.
that when the pressure finally let up, even a little,
I can breathe
your whole
now.
body just gave out? That is what happened to
I am
Diep
completely
in that
exhausted.
chair.
Take your
Not
time.
tears,
Rest.
not relief.
Thank you.
Just her legs deciding they were done holding her up for the moment. Because that is what 14
Hamilton.
months of caregiving does to a
Right,
person.
I know. Thank you.
You do not realize how much you have been bracing until something gives you permission to stop. That night,
Yes.
after
I'm
Nai
here.
was in
It's
bed,
beautiful tonight.
Diep called her mother.
I miss you.
He came home smiling.
Good night.
She said,
I miss you too.
a real smile.
So much.
I had not seen that in so long, I almost
won't
did
be
not
long
recognize it. Her mother was quiet for a moment.
Sao mẹ không liên lạc được với
Then,
con?
what did the doctor say? Diep told her
Có chuyện
everything.
gì xảy ra không?
The slower
You have
progression,
to help him, please.
the
We need you
unexpected
now.
results,
Hello?
the new tests 2 weeks out.
I'll explain everything quickly, but we need assistance immediately.
Her mother listened without interrupting.
special, my child.
She has gotten very good at
It's
that
okay.
over this past year.
I'm
Oh,
here.
how do you feel? She
You
asked
must
when
listen
Diep
to me.
finished. Scared,
I am your
Diep
mother.
said honestly. Of the good news?
It will
Of
be
wanting
okay.
it too much.
I'm
A
begging
long
you.
pause on the other end.
Don't do this.
Then her mother said,
He's sleeping right
To
beside
Diep.
me. He
you have
doesn't know.
spent this whole year making sure everyone around you was all right. You kept the house going.
You don't have
kept
to
your
carry this
face
alone, my
calm.
daughter. Your
You held
sacrifices
all
are
of it
seen and
together without
appreciated.
ever being
Be
asked to.
brave.
She paused.
You shouldn't have done that.
You are allowed
You should
to
have
want
just let
something
him go.
good. You are allowed to let yourself hope.
I feel the
That
weight
is
of a
not
new
weakness. That
But
is
also
just
it's
being
promise.
human. I suspect some of you
We'll
watching
face it together.
know exactly what Diep's mother meant. Because maybe you have been there too. Protecting yourself from hope because hoping felt too dangerous.
The mountains
Because
stand
wanting
silent.
something good and not getting it, that kind
to
of
the hopes we
disappointment
place
has a
upon it.
particular weight to it.
Look,
But here is what
sun
Diep's
is
mother
beautiful.
understood. There is a difference between
Here,
foolish
I made us
hope
some
and
tea.
earned hope. Diep had
You
earned
made it.
this.
Here's some
Every
tea.
morning she showed up. Every hard day she got through.
Mommy, Daddy.
It's more beautiful than I remember.
It is. And you're stronger than you know, Diep.
Look at these.
They're perfect, Faye. You did a great job.
Time to start the day. Let's do this. I needed that.
Got it. Together.
Every 2 minutes she cried and then washed her face and kept going.
Mom, come here, child.
She had
safe
earned the
now.
right to sit in a chair on a Tuesday afternoon
I'm so
and let her
tired.
legs give out.
Breathe.
She had earned a real
I've got you.
smile. Here is what I learned from that Tuesday night.
We did it. I feel so peaceful here, James.
yes, Diep, this is exactly what we needed.
Protecting yourself from hope is exhausting work.
Here,
And at some point,
it'll help.
after you have done everything right,
I feel
after
like
you
I
have
can
been
breathe
strong
again.
for long enough, you have to put that particular weight down. And not because the future is
They're
certain,
almost here.
but because you cannot carry everything at once. Diep put it
The
down
path
that
is
night.
steep tonight.
And for the first time in 14
I
months,
feel better already,
she
James.
slept.
I know you do, Diep. We're all here for you.
Take your time, dear.
Hey. Welcome back. I'm glad you came in.
the new tests are 2 weeks away. Now, 2 weeks is a long time when you are waiting for something important. Most of you know that. Time
Look at this
moves
one.
differently when
It's
something is
growing
on the
so
line.
fast.
Can I help?
Of course, watch this.
The days pass so slowly here, but there is beauty in the rhythm.
But Diep notices something in those 2 weeks.
Enjoy the fabric, too deep.
James is different.
Refreshing.
Not dramatically, not in a way a stranger would see.
Glad you like it.
She knows this
The
man.
mountains provide the best
She knows
water.
every version of him.
I always forget how beautiful it is here.
Yes, it truly is.
And he is
The air here
lighter,
is incredible.
like something he had been carrying quietly for months, just got set down,
I'm just
Not
so
gone.
relieved.
just
God,
set
that
down.
feels so good.
Oh, I know. It's been a long day.
And he
think I know
starts
how to
doing
fix this.
something he had quietly stopped doing
Yes,
a long
just need
time
a couple
ago.
of things.
What do you need?
With this mark right here, we can set up the new trellis. Imagine all the tomatoes.
That's a great idea, James. It'll make things so much easier.
Exactly, and we'll have more space for the other vegetables too.
He starts making plans, small ones,
I think this is
nothing
it.
grand.
Yes.
He mentions the garden fence needs repainting come spring. He asks Nye
I
what she
think we
wants
should
for her
paint the
birthday in
fence.
April.
What do you think?
Really
Paint it?
asks.
Oh, I love that
Pulls out a
idea,
notepad.
James.
I want
Writes
a big
things down
bouncy
with the
ball,
pen he
a
keeps
toy
by his
truck,
chair.
and ice cream.
He tells
Okay,
Diep
I'm
one
writing it
morning
down.
over coffee that he has
Oh, my
been thinking
wishes
about a
came
weekend
true.
trip. Just the three of them, somewhere
the view.
slow and quiet
finally
with a
made
good
it.
view.
It's
Diep
breathtaking,
listens
James.
to
Thank
all
you
of
for
it
bringing me here.
without saying a word about practicalities. She just listens, and she thinks, this is what hope looks like in a person.
Oh, it was the
Not
funniest
grand
thing. She
announcements.
just didn't believe me.
Not
Can you believe
fireworks,
that?
just a man writing down birthday ideas in a notepad. Just a man deciding,
Your
quietly,
love has been my
that spring
strength,
is worth planning for.
and
I
yours
want you to
mine.
think about that for a moment. Because I think a lot of us,
Welcome, Nee.
when we picture hope, we picture something big.
Mommy. Look, you got it. Yes.
Very good.
Yeah.
The world is so much bigger than I thought.
Look, like this. I see.
I can't believe this.
It's like a dream.
A turning
Yeah.
point,
The storm is
a
over.
clear answer,
Beautiful.
a moment where everything clicks into place. But real hope is quieter than that. Real hope is a fence that needs painting in
Look at
spring.
these.
They're perfect.
They're so heavy. Be careful.
Real hope is writing things down because you intend to still be here when April comes, about a week before the new tests.
Peekaboo.
Nye finds James at the kitchen table.
Peekaboo.
Good morning.
Good morning.
He
This
has
is
the
from a
Remember
long
book
time
open
ago.
in front of him, not
What is
reading it,
this, Papa?
writing in
It's
it.
important to remember, little one.
Keep watching. This is important.
Nye climbs onto the chair beside him and looks. He has added a new page at the very back.
Look, Mihi. It's empty.
What will we put here?
After her no last,
Diep and James.
after Rorty's
Yes, that's
drawing
our
of all
family.
of them on today's colored pencil
Now we have
stars.
new words to read.
His
Finally.
handwriting, slow and careful. Nye reads it without saying anything.
The third one is
right. Keep going.
He has written, "To whoever opens this,
Do you remember
on a
this,
hard day
Mimi?
or an easy
Yes,
one."
I do, James.
The ink captures the light beautifully.
It truly does.
It truly does.
Such artistry, my dear.
And I want you to
promise,
know that the
Mimi.
people in this book are the reason I fight to stay.
James.
Every good day I have is
James.
because of them.
You remind me so much of my sister.
It's gonna be okay, and we're here for you.
If you are
The little
reading
orange
this
bear
and
went
the
on an
fog is
adventure
heavy,
today.
He did.
please know
Where is he
that
going
somewhere
now?
underneath
He's
it,
going to
there is a
explore the
man who
mountains.
loves his family completely. He has not gone anywhere. He is just having a hard time finding the door.
You know,
She's right. I wish I could go back and change things. We'll be okay now.
There.
Give him a minute.
All done.
He will find his way back.
Good job,
Now.
James.
you
I
did
want
it.
you
did
to
it.
stop here.
Thanks, Nihi.
I never knew what peace was until I found myself standing in this threshold. Before we begin, I must say this. Thank you.
We're ready.
A man who was told he was losing himself sat down and wrote a message for the version of himself
James.
that might one day not remember who he is. Think about what kind of love that takes. Think
have
about
something
what
on
kind
your
of
hair.
person does that. Not for
Thank
himself,
you.
for the people who
Thank
will
you.
be in that room with him on the hard days. Chakutob arabuanakpom paitsikatupom.
Hey there, little one, come back over here.
I got you.
Oh, how sweet.
So they know about who he is
Official now.
still in there.
It's official.
He just needs a minute. Take your time with
I
that
knew
one.
You could do
And I close the book
it.
carefully.
We're ready.
We're ready.
Yes. Zzz. You just need to be patient. Yeah, I know.
Can we eat yet?
You keep that safe now.
I will, thank you.
Thank
You did very well.
you. You
Put it
got
back on the side
sweetie.
table where it always
Perfect.
lives.
Just like
And she
you
looked at
wanted.
her father. Dad. Yes?
You knew it all along, didn't you?
Yes, I did.
He kept it for a reason.
Mr. James, I understand the plan completely. I will protect Mr. Orange and make sure he gets there safely.
Good. I believe you will.
You've grown so much, and I'm incredibly proud of the person you've become.
You make her so happy.
That was a really good
Look what I
page.
found, Dad.
James smiled.
That's a lovely
And that
orange,
smile.
sweetie.
Auntie.
You're really back.
He's really back. You're back. You are both here with me.
So I had good material to
Hey
work
there,
with,
little one, come back over
he
here.
said.
I got you.
Oh, how sweet.
Here's what I want to leave you with today. Hope is not a guarantee.
You go on ahead. We'll be right behind you.
The scale of this place, and it truly is beautiful, even in its uncertainty.
The new tests might not bring the news this family is waiting
What are we
for.
gonna do?
The road ahead is still uncertain. James still has hard days and will have more of them.
You okay, James?
Here, I made this for you.
Thank you, Annie. It's beautiful. She worked so hard on it.
We do
I
not know yet
understand.
what the tests
We'll
will
be all
say.
right.
But here is what
He's
we
here
know
now,
right
And
now.
that's what matters
A man
most.
who had stopped making plans is making plans again.
I know exactly what to do.
Look at that.
Wow.
Wow, it's so big.
See, this here? We measure it like this. You try.
Yeah, wow.
Okay, I got it. Look.
Oh my goodness, that's just wonderful.
A man who wondered what he still had left to give sat down and wrote a page so beautiful, it stopped me completely. A man came
here,
home
my
from the
love, I'm
doctor
home.
on a Tuesday afternoon. and smiled at his wife the way he used
Thank
to,
God you're back.
and a woman who had been holding herself together for 14
We're
months.
home! They're home! They're safe! Oh my God, they're safe!
Finally let her legs give out. That is not
Survive, my
nothing.
love.
That is not a small thing.
Oh, James.
Mommy?
I will not let them win.
It's okay, mommy.
She's right.
And if you
You are
are
not
someone who
alone
has
in
been
this.
bracing for a long
We are here
time,
for you.
who has been
We are here
strong
for
for so long you forgot what it felt
We
like to just
understand.
breathe,
I needed this view. The mist helps. We'll get through it.
I hope this
The
finds you on a
mountain air
Tuesday
feels
afternoon.
particularly fresh this evening.
It does. And the village is lively today.
I
Father,
hope
you and
someone
saw
walks
this.
through your door and smiles at you the way they
James,
used to.
You know exactly
And I
what
hope when
need.
it happens,
Always.
you let yourself sit
I
down.
thought I'd lost
You have
you.
earned it.
I'm here now.
It's okay.
James came home from a routine appointment with news nobody expected. His
Look,
condition
Diep,
is
look at this.
progressing significantly
Oh my
slower
God,
than
are
the
you
doctors
serious?
originally thought.
It worked. It finally worked.
Dr. Reeves wants to run new tests. He is not making
Let me
promises.
summarize.
But he would not be looking
Yes,
again
please.
if he did not think there was
I
something
can't
worth
promise that it will
finding.
be okay. But I'm here.
Thank you. You told me there was still a chance, James.
Tell me there's still a chance.
I promise you to Diep. There is.
James told to Diep with a real smile. One she had not seen in
I know.
14 months.
James?
Yes, I'm here.
On that
Please tell
night,
me what's
Tu
happening.
Diep called her mother and admitted
Don't
she was
hang up.
scared of wanting the good news too
We didn't
much.
come home.
Her mother told her simply,
You don't have to
"You
worry,
have
my
earned the
dear.
right to hope."
Everything will be okay. Thank you, Mom. We needed that.
In the 2 weeks before the new
Look at that.
tests,
What are you drawing?
It's a
James
drawing
began
of the
making small
mountains
plans
and the
again.
buffaloes.
Do you
a
like
fence
it?
to
Yes,
paint,
it's so
a
beautiful.
birthday in April, a weekend trip someday.
Nah.
Look at this.
Wow, a giant.
It's a star. It's a star. What does that mean?
The winding road goes here.
And then we crossed the river?
Yes, right here.
And one evening he sat down and added a page to Nye's Remember book. Not for the hard
Just
days.
remember the moments, just the happy moments.
Just
Vậy
because
ngủ
he
ngon
had
nhé.
something he needed to say. Hope does not always arrive with a cure.
Mẹ cũng ngủ ngon.
Sometimes it arrives as a man writing birthday ideas in a notepad, a
That
fence
sounds
he
like a
wants to
wonderful
paint
wish,
in
and
spring,
tell me more.
a new page in a
Almost
book,
done. Look how bright
because he
this
finally
is.
had something he wanted to say out loud.
Keep
And
up
if
the
you
good
have been
work.
protecting yourself from hope for a long time,
I
this is your
remember this
reminder.
day. It was
You are
so
allowed to
much
want
fun.
something good.
It really was.
You have earned
remember
it.
everything, don't you?
Take care of each
Yes,
other.
every
And
single
thank you for
part.
watching.
I'm sorry.
It's okay. I'm here.
You make every day feel like a new beginning.
And you make it worth waking up for.
Look, me. The path is so beautiful. And look at the mountains, sweetie.
Wow, they're so big. Can we climb them?